What's up, guys? Boston Brian here from the Midas Touch Network and host of Blunt Politics. And if there's been one through line in this entire, brutal invasion of Ukraine by Russia, it is just how impressed I am with the ability of the Ukrainians to do so much with so little, their ability to pull off so much with so little. And it just continues over the last month and a half. They have done such an incredible job of targeting Russian infrastructure, Russian oil infrastructure, oil refineries, that now it is really coming to a head. We're seeing more and more articles like this. This is from Ukrainska Pravda. Fuel crisis begins in Crimea as filling stations reportedly run out of petrol. As of 24 September, all grades of petrol, including the premium A100, have completely disappeared from filling stations in Russian-occupied Crimea. A local human rights activist who asked to remain anonymous said, "The thing the Crimeans were afraid of has happened. The filling stations have no petrol, and many are shutting down altogether so they don't have to pay their staff. The fuel collapse has begun, has hit both ordinary Crimeans and businesses." The activist noted that while the state-funded companies are still receiving fuel ration coupons, albeit in minimal amounts, private firms and companies are facing major problems and suffering heavy losses due to the breakdown of their transport operations. There are fewer cars on the road. The fixed route minibuses are packed because people can't drive. Many people are openly voicing their anger, blaming the incompetence of the Kremlin leadership, which is not something you openly hear a lot, the activist added. Reuters also goes on to say that as of 26 August, Russian oil companies had lost 17% of their refining capabilities. I believe that's roughly 1.2 million barrels. Fuel shortages are being observed in 20 regions of Russia and in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Meanwhile, fuel prices continue to rise across the country, and we have more stories, more videos to check out with that. But this is, another headline. This is from the Moscow Times here. Ukraine's drones have hit major oil refinery in southern Russia for a second time in a month. So, if Moscow is reporting it, there must be a problem, because typically they're not too quick to report things that, again, reflect poorly upon themselves. Ukrainian drone struck the Afipsky oil refinery in Russia's Krasnodar region for the second time in a month, regional authorities said Thursday. Debris from one of the drones fell on a refinery unit, sparking a fire that covered 30 square meters before being quickly extinguished. The regional crisis center said no casualties were reported. The Afipsky refinery, one of the largest in southern Russia, has a processing capacity of 9.1 million tons of crude a year and operates two primary processing units. It was previously targeted by drones on August 28th, a week after an earlier strike on August 7th forced the shutdown of one unit. Drones also hit the nearby Krasnodar refinery, which is linked to the Afipsky, on August 30th. Ukraine has stepped up attacks on oil infrastructure since early August, disabling at least 5 major oil refineries. Calculations show strikes have cut refining capabilities by 17%, or 1.1 million barrels per day. Industry sources told the Kommersant Business Daily that gasoline outputs had fallen by roughly 10%. More than 300 filling stations across Russia have closed, while many regions have introduced rationing of 10 to 20 liters per customer. The wholesale gasoline prices have jumped 40 to 50% since the start of the year. Zelensky said that U.S. President Donald Trump had backed the strikes on Russian energy facilities, describing Washington's stance as an eye for an eye policy. Now, that is just kind of brings me back to this True Social post from Donald Trump just a couple days ago, which kind of blew everybody's mind. Anybody that has been really paying attention to what Donald Trump has been saying, his rhetoric, and him putting pressure mostly on Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky, as opposed to Vladimir Putin in Russia, because he knows he has absolutely no cards left to play with Putin. But this is just, one of the things that I thought was remarkable the other day when he kind of came out with this one, when he said that Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form, and who knows, maybe even go further than that. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is the time for Ukraine to act. Now, to me, that seemingly is given permission to Ukraine to, if they want to, strike and take Russian territory now. Like, not only is he calling them paper tigers in here, we also heard that clip where he sat down with Volodymyr Zelensky and he was asked if, Russian airplanes should be shot down if they were to cross into NATO airspace, and he said absolutely.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
And it almost broke Zelensky's neck. I don't think Zelensky was expecting that answer, because as soon as Donald Trump said yes, Zelensky was like, "Oh, okay, shit." Like, I didn't didn't expect that one to come. Like, you sure you heard the question correctly there? So, these are all good signs. But again, these are just words on a paper. These are just, lips moving until this is followed up by the appropriate action, the appropriate steps by the United States military and the U.S. government. Then again, this is just a bunch of bullshit coming from Donald Trump until I see some action. But I mean, this whole gas situation is absolutely a problem. Here's another post here. Huge queues have formed at gas stations in Sevastopol and Yalta. Reportedly, the situation observed throughout Crimea. If fuel appears somewhere, crowds of people eager to refuel immediately gather. Let's see if we can take a look at this. Look at the line. I don't think that gas station's even open. That looked like it had all zeros, which is another big thing that we're seeing. Either the gas is extremely expensive, or they just don't have any at all. Right? So here's a bunch of them where, this one's closed here.
С бензином, короче, не меняется. 100-го нету, 95-го нету, даже 92-го нету. Короче, остался только дизель есть. У меня запас хода всего лишь там 40 километров осталось, и все.
Clearly, he's not happy that he can't find gas, and he's not alone. Let's see here. Russia's fuel crisis hits Moscow region, and Leningrad, thanks to Ukrainian drones visiting refineries daily. Some Lukoil stations have even banned selling gas in cans from Siberia to Crimea. Shortages are spreading. Moscow traffic just got more adventurous. So, again, Russia would love to have you believe that this is only in the Crimea area, but seemingly is spreading far and wide throughout the region. As you can see here, I believe this is another one showing a bunch of zeros on the old ticker. No gas, only diesel, I think, in a few of these gas stations. Which is a sight to see. Especially in a country that would love to tell you that they're doing so. Russian Telegram channels report that there is total fuel shortages in Russia. About 360 gas stations now have shut down due to a lack of gasoline. Supply disruptions have affected Moscow, Leningrad, Ryazan, Nizhny Novgorod regions, and among others. It is reported that the situation is felt most severely in southern Russia, where the number of gas stations has decreased by 14%, and in the temporarily occupied Crimea in Sevastopol area by nearly half. At the same time, Sergei Eskanov, so-called head of the Russian-occupied Crimea, called on residents of the peninsula to be patient and stated that the situation is under control and will be soon resolved, with gasoline once again becoming available from Kyiv in 3 days to gas shortage. I mean, again, you can see here.
В связи с тем, что часть заводов, то есть в данном случае, то есть просто физически, то есть не работает, значит, у нас возникли проблемы и перебои с топливом. Гарантированная ситуация в течение 2 дней поправится полностью по 95-му бензину, и в течение 2 недель максимально это будет решен вопрос по наличию 92-го бензина. Значит, по дизельному топливу проблем нет, наличие необходимый объем имеется. С федеральными со всеми службами.
And it's funny to me that they continuously point out the fact that there's shortages and problems, but they won't point out the reasons to why. I've seen that a through line in many of the videos where, they are seemingly acting so confused as to why there's shortages all of a sudden in this fuel, why they seem to be having this problem with the transportation and the fuel transport systems, and they just refuse to acknowledge the fact that it's the ability of the Ukrainian drones to get by the Russian air defenses and strike basically at will these oil refineries to cause these problems. And that's not all, because there's also trains that are going off the track. Here's a video of a train carrying, I believe, 18 fuel cars that recently went off the tracks. Here's a better video of it. Check this out.
Фуру сбил, короче, наверное, он только полуприцеп валяется. Бля, жестко вообще. Цистерны какие-то поедут. Вот это да.
Now, I'm going to say that's not going to help the gas situation at all either. That's probably going to be a hindrance. That's probably going to be a little bit of a problem as well. The people that were going to be waiting for that oil or that gas or whatever it was, probably going to be waiting a little bit before they get that. But, the problems just continue. They continue to, expound for Russia in this situation. You can see here a bunch of pictures. We apologize, but 95 is only available with fuel cards in some areas. This is dear customers, 92 and 95 is only available for special purpose vehicles only. I'm assuming probably military. No gas at all. No gas or diesel fuel. So the fuel crisis is rapidly spreading to more and more cities and regions across Russia. So it's amazing to see Ukraine's ability here. And it's good to see at least the change in rhetoric over the last couple of days that we've seen from Donald Trump. But again, that means absolutely nothing if it's not backed up with, again, policies, if it's not backed up with action. So we want to continue to see, that continue to be a positive change in things. Again, being able to have the president of the United States out there saying absolutely shoot down those Russian jets if they enter NATO airspace is a huge change to the situation, as you could tell by Zelensky's reaction to his answer to that question. But I just wanted to continue to point out the ability of the Ukrainian military and the determination they have in order to continue to fight for their homeland and strike deep inside of Russia to make sure that they are striking it and inflicting the maximum amount of damage to these military targets. Again, military targets used for military purposes, unlike what the Russians are doing, continuously targeting shops and shopping centers and schools and hospitals and courts and hotels and things where only civilians are staying, where they have absolutely no military significance whatsoever. And that just happens on a nightly basis, day in and day out, as we've seen since Donald Trump took office. The drones and missiles and attacks have only increased, probably doubled, if not tripled, since Donald Trump took office. So if you like what you're seeing, if you like what you're hearing, if you're in support of the Ukrainian military like we are here at Midas Touch and at Blunt Politics, I would advise you and ask you please to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 6 million, if I'm not mistaken. So I appreciate you guys. Make sure you're checking out Midas Touch at patreon.com/Midas Touch. You can also check out more of me, Boston Brian, and Blunt Politics at patreon.com/Boston Brian. I appreciate you guys very much. Get out of your seats, get into the streets, find your nearest protest, find your nearest rally. Stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive, but keep your head on a swivel. All right, there. I'll see you next time. I'm Boston Brian. Continue to kick ass, guys. All right, see you later. Slava Ukraini.